Welcome to the DayZ Frostline Q&A release video. Here we'll ask some questions to the dev team. I hope you enjoy.
We have some new stuff that is really limited to Sakhal terrain in Frostline DLC. We have new animals, we have a specific boat and some clothing items that are linked to Winter Team. But what we want to do in general is to make every map distinct and have a unique feeling. So what we are doing is really reshuffling spawning of some items, making them more rare or more common on different maps. So every map gives you very unique experience. At Bohemia Interactive, we are known to support our games in a long time, so the same will apply, of course, to Frostline. We are planning to do bug fixing, to polish the game, to add more stuff that wasn't finished for the release, and maybe there might be something completely new that we haven't announced yet. It's always tricky to simply add feedback from players. We are looking at it really all the time. But the thing is that for our community, we have a lot of different type of players and they have different needs. So we need to think carefully what we want to implement, because we don't want to really promote only one type of gameplay. On one hand, we have our vanilla servers and survival experience that we want to give to our players. But on the other, we still want to support the sandbox part of the game, which allows our community to create content that they really want to play. So we need to consider both of those parts. As you might know, we are really known for creating big, realistic and very complex terrains. Unfortunately, that thing is quite expensive. It takes a long time and requires a lot of developers to focus on it. We were thinking, how can we achieve such thing in reasonable time? And what we did was utilizing existing map from Arma series called Tanoa, which originally is a tropical island, but it's volcanic. So we thought we can actually utilize the topography of that map and build on that, which saved us a lot of time and enables us to create a new environment that would fit both the gameplay and the experience that we want to give our players. That's how Sakhal was made. In my opinion, it should appeal to both. For veteran players, we have a new terrain to explore, new environment. They will need to adjust their strategies that worked on Chernarus and Livonia. But on Sakhal, they will need to adapt. So it will introduce a new experience to something that they already know. And for new players, Sakhal is really showing how the survival can look like in winter. And based on the playtests, also DayZ never looked this good.
Over the years, we've always tried to balance out the development to cater various playstyles DayZ offers. This year, all the development has been primarily devoted to all the survivalists out there. We've improved a lot of systems so they react on the environment temperature. We've iterated on various survival features, and we, for example, also revisited production of animals, which I'm super happy about. Sakhal will certainly be the hardest terrain that we made when it comes to the survival. Chernarus and Livonia will also feel different when DayZ Frostline hits, primarily because it will be warmer. The most challenging was to make sure Sakhal feels special and unique compared to the other maps that we have in the game. We've basically dedicated most of our artists, both internal and also some from the Thailand branch, to make as many assets as possible in the given time that we have. But given the size of the map, we had to also resort to the asset reuse. But for that, we've used some tricks like using a different color palette, new grass models, new trees, making some new assets, small assets like power lines, fences, new road textures, and we've also made some new houses variants. When you play on Sakhal, you may notice that the terrain is more detailed than on the other maps. In order to use that, we actually had to do a number of optimizations and fixes on the engine side. One of the problems was that the road network wasn't rendered properly. For that, Engine guys have actually come up with a solution that not only fixed the underlying problem with the roads, but also had a side effect of increasing the max number of vertices in the models, which has made asset production much simpler for us. We could make much more detailed models easier. And modders, after the release of DayZ Frostline, will also be able to greatly benefit from this change. Survival in a freezing environment isn't always about staying warm. It's often also about maintaining a good food supply, because the cold drains your energy. Luckily, on Sakhal, you are surrounded by an ocean, and we've also introduced new animals to hunt. Also, I would recommend you to learn some Cyrillic if you haven't done already. DayZ Frostline is by far the most important project we've been working on in years. I'm very proud of what we have been able to achieve in such a narrow time frame, and I hope that you're gonna enjoy your adventures on Sakhal.
DayZ is very different in terms of what players are enjoying. For me personally, it's the exploration of the map and the drive to move forward to see what's behind the horizon. And as soon as I was playing Sakhal and exploring the placeholders and the prototypes of the features that we were preparing, as soon as I got to that moment that I felt like, yes, I want to reach that far island, I want to climb over these ice shelves, I want to drive that boat, then I felt that we have something special here. Authentic sandbox title like DayZ has an infinite pool of ideas that we could implement to improve it. And it was amazing to be part of those initial brainstormings for the Frostline expansion and seeing the hundreds of ideas that our developers were coming up with. But from here, the biggest challenge was to select the few ideas that would be the core of making the winter survival experience for Frostline a reality.
The main difference between Frostline expansion and Livonia DLC is the scope. We went deeper and wider than before. We adding new items like clothes, new vehicle type, new map, Sakhal. We improved a lot of old mechanics. We adding new features. And I believe with all those improvements, the Frostline expansion bringing the whole game to another level. I have to say that the Sakhal is hardest map we ever made. It will be too challenge even for the experienced DayZ players. However, the biggest advantage is the knowledge of the map. The map is new for everybody. So I would say the new players can become experts on the new Sakhal map much faster than on any other maps.
We wanted to create the environment that it feels harsh, it feels cruel, but at the same time that there is some kind of life in there. We were working in trying to get in the birds and animals so the players can hear them, so they can feel that there is a life. But at the same time, when the wind gets strong, when the snow gets strong, all this wilderness goes quiet, and all the player can hear is either all of the wind sounds, or there can actually be almost a complete silence to tell the players that it is a harsh, cruel world where if it's below zero, nothing is living there. So I think that was one of the main goals and main achievements of our audio work. We're still going to reuse a lot of sounds, of course, that are present for all of the objects that will be present on the previous maps. But as mainly for the ambience, it will be more harsh, as I just mentioned, but also at times it will be more overwhelming, because we wanted to induce the feeling that if there's the heavy wind around you, you're in a forest, there's a lot of crackling going on, it's kind of difficult to hear other things, so the player is more overwhelmed in contrast to the other maps. And at the same time, if you're on completely frozen ice plains where there's nothing living around you, there's no vegetation, it will be even more quiet than the previous maps.
The weather is a very important aspect of the new Sakhal map and the new Frostline expansion. And so we have three kind of pillars. We have fog, we have snow, and we also have wind. So for example, there was no snowing effect in DayZ. We had to get one of our graphics programmers, actually from the Infusion team, to come in and implement this new awesome looking snowing visualization effect, which you will see in the game, especially during blizzards. We also had to mess around a little bit with fog. So DayZ actually had fog in the game already, but it was coupled with view distance. That's another thing that we changed later. So by decoupling the existing fog implementation from the view distance, we were able to actually allow the designers to mess around and create maybe different kinds of fog. And because of that, we ended up with this awesome morning fog effect that you can actually see on different maps. And the final thing was the wind. Wind also existed in DayZ already, but it was very noisy. It had some tweaking. We had our programmer, Alish, actually really dive deep into that system. And once again, just take an existing system and expose it to designers so that they could play around with it and make it look better. And now with the new system, you'll really see trees, foliage really move in the direction of the strong wind that you will find on an island. Another one of the things that we added to the game is we got one of our graphics programmers to add this shader that enables objects to look like they have snow on top. Now this is really important because Sakhal, snowy map, you'll notice that if you go up to higher altitudes, a lot of the rocks will have snow on top. And this would have been not feasible to model by hand. But because of the shader, our environment designers are just able to place rocks higher and higher up in altitudes, and they'll seem more snowy. And the final and very big new change for the Frostline expansion is the addition of boats. And this was spearheaded by our modern turned employee extraordinaire, Jacob Mango. He initially created a buoyancy simulation, which meant that in the engine of DayZ, there wasn't really a way that you could throw an object and have it float. And he added this functionality. And with that, we were able to finally realistically consider adding boats to the game. And so that's what we did. Of course, boats are a vehicle, but we couldn't use the simulation that we use on cars on boats. They're too different. So Jacob actually had to create a brand new, different kind of simulation networking model. He had to make it deterministic. What does that mean? It means that the same input will always result in the same output. This was a problem. The client and the server might receive the same input and end up with different outputs, and this would cause desync issues. It would look weird. That's been addressed for boats with this upcoming expansion. He also had to spend quite a bit of time worrying about collision recalculations and the like. But the final result is great.
I don't want to be here. But I wanted to make a map in the far east of Siberia for a while. It was the opportunity for us to start fresh and make a map that has like a lot more details than Chernarus. Because Chernarus, you start to make a lot of details in a village and all of a sudden it's out of place because all the other villages around or towns need to match up to that standard. So I can think of a few. For example, between the areas that we created evacuation sites for the mainland population, just to like smaller areas with like trucks on the side of the road or that just rolled over. And just like details like tires next to houses, the way people reuse objects in that region. Like I went on Street View and spent a lot of time just looking around, like how people lived there and how it looked like, just to get a general vibe of the area. Yeah, for example, like there was one house that had so much garbage around that there was even trash on the roof. And I decided to just go wild on one of the houses on the map and spend 2 or 3 hours just placing trash and garbage.
It was quite difficult, even with looking at a lot of reference images in Google Maps of the area, but a lot of discussions was had with the environment team and design team to get the interiors looking right, looking authentic, but also playing well for not only us, the team, but also the community. A lot of tests were done. But as a long-time player, I wanted to add my own little flair, more details that is more reminiscent of the area. And I think it came out very, very well.
Well, some of the QA were involved in the planning process pretty early on, so we could also put in our own QA plans on how to test everything. We also worked pretty closely with the programmers and the scripters. They helped us with some debug tools to better test some of the new features like fishing, boats, and the new traps. Aside from some of these technical details, we also had pretty large-scale playtests. And this was interesting because we had both experienced and inexperienced players participating in this. So it was really interesting to see, their feedback and their initial experience interacting with the new content.
I thought it's not just a one feature, but the whole game at all the time, because you cannot just change one thing and go with it. Our weather system is working with heat comfort, which is affected by the clothing of the player, and the whole thing is also work with the common cold too. So when you change something, you all need to think everything all together, and then you need to think about the central economy. If you are spawning enough clothing for the players, you need to also think about all the maps all together.
For me, most memorable moment is the first time Snowstorm, when I looked into the build where there's new particle system and whole new particles in effect here. And when you combine it with the ambient sound, when you combine it with the new particles, it creates this amazing immersion. One of the reasons why the Frostline is the, I believe, best expansion we've ever had is the team. The size is better, we are growing, there are new people, new roles, and that is leading to huge improvements in how we are creating the game, and as well how we are responding to feedback. Because we have brand new way how to go through the feedback. And even if you think, guys, sometimes we are not actually listening to you or not hearing you, be aware that we are going through lots of feedback, through lots of comments every day, and we are always discussing whether something should be done right now or done later.
We rebalance cargo sizes, you saw it, and we wanted to bring a new challenge to you players, and we decided to rebalance these cargo sizes of backpacks and clothing. We wanted to add this challenge for you to decide which items you will take with you on DayZ during your journey. And we are still listening to your feedbacks and still deciding what we could do with this and how we will improve the general mechanic of looting in general. We introduced a volcano in the middle of the map, and we decided to add you a dead scientist on the steep. This dead scientist lost his briefcase, and you will have to find it and find valuable items in it. But to open it, you will need some other items around the map that you will have to find.
For the first time players, I have two words, and that is actually fire and food. And you need to learn how to get it.
For Sakhal, the main thing will be to find you good clothing, make a fire, stay warm, and this is the key to decide what you will do after.
Don't be scared of making fires.
The best way to survive is to be prepared for the challenges you're going to face. In the far eastern archipelago of Sakhal, that is going to be the bitter cold. So be ready to have your knife, your fire starter and your kindling so that you can brave the bitter cold.
Warm up as soon as you can, get yourself some good clothes, get yourself some basic water, try and find one of the new type of wells, the fountains that we've got on the outskirts of town, sit up and get out there. It's going to be really fun.
The thing that I always personally try to do is I always try to go fishing. We have this new fishing mechanic. It's pretty reliable way to get some fish. They give you a lot of food. You can make a fire and then eat the fish. It's a ton of calories for this cold environment. That's always been my strategy.
Thank you for watching DayZ Frostline Q&A video. Please like, share and leave a comment below. Thank you for coming by. My top DayZ tip for DayZ Frostline: kill everyone. Don't even waste your time. There's no friendly behavior. There are no rules in DayZ. Do what you want. Enjoy.